Have you ever wondered why two tomato plants that were planted on the same day, from the same variety, and in the same soil, can turn out so differently by the middle of summer, with one loaded with tomatoes while the other has nothing but green leaves and very few fruits? That is a question many gardeners across the United States ask every growing season. If your garden is also dealing with tomato plants that produce plenty of flowers but keep dropping them, grow slowly, or produce smaller fruits than you expected, then watch this video to the end. Because the reason may not be the seeds, and it may not be because you are watering too much or too little. Hello, I am Jacob. I live in rural Pennsylvania and have spent more than 20 years growing vegetables, fruit trees, and caring for a garden that provides food for my family through most of the year. Over many growing seasons, I've realized that the most valuable lessons do not come from expensive products on store shelves, but from observing plants, listening to the experience of longtime gardeners, and constantly experimenting in my own garden. What about you? Which state are you growing tomatoes in? What is your biggest challenge? Slow-growing plants, yellow leaves, or plants that produce plenty of flowers but never set fruit? Share your experience in the comments because I always read everyone's experiences. In today's video, I will share a simple method that I still use to improve soil conditions before I even think about adding more fertilizer. What makes it interesting is that it does not begin with the top of the plant. It begins with the roots and the tiny ecosystem working beneath the soil. Once you understand how the soil works, you will realize that growing a healthy tomato plant is not just about watering or fertilizing on schedule. More importantly, it is about creating an environment where the roots can grow strong, allowing the plant to have enough strength to support its flowers, hold its fruit, and produce a consistent harvest throughout the growing season. Before I start mixing this solution, I want to say one thing. Over more than 20 years of gardening, I have tried many different recipes. Some worked well, and some were nothing more than old gardening myths. The one I am sharing today is the mixture I still use every growing season because it is simple, inexpensive, and the ingredients can be found in almost every American household. This recipe makes about 1 gallon of solution. The first ingredient is baking yeast. I usually use about 1 tablespoon. You do not need to buy an expensive brand. Regular dry yeast sold at Walmart, Kroger, or any grocery store will work just fine. Yeast is the most important ingredient in this mixture because it contains living microorganisms, and those microorganisms are what begin the process that I will explain in more detail later. The second ingredient is molasses. I use about 2 tablespoons. If you do not have molasses in your kitchen, you can substitute white sugar or brown sugar. However, I still prefer molasses because besides providing a source of energy for the yeast, it also contains a small amount of natural minerals. If you have buttermilk at home, add about 1 cup. This is not a required ingredient, but in my experience, it helps add beneficial bacteria and makes the mixture work more consistently. If you do not have it, that is perfectly fine. The recipe will still work. Finally, add 1 teaspoon of baking soda. 1 teaspoon is enough. I never add more because too much baking soda can change the pH of the mixture and affect the activity of the yeast. After preparing all the ingredients, pour them into about 1 gallon of warm water. I want to emphasize the word warm, not hot. If the water is too hot, the yeast will die before it has a chance to become active. The ideal temperature is about the same as bath water. If it feels comfortably warm when you touch it, that is just right. I also always prefer to use rainwater or water that is low in chlorine. If tap water is all you have, let it sit overnight in an uncovered bucket or container so some of the free chlorine can dissipate before mixing the solution. Because the purpose of this mixture is to create the right conditions for microorganisms to grow, using the right water source will help them become active more effectively from the very beginning. If you have ever mixed a homemade solution for your plants and did not see any change, the problem was probably not the recipe. It was that you were in too much of a hurry. This is one of the most common mistakes I see new gardeners make. They mix all the ingredients together, apply the solution right away, then conclude that the method does not work. In reality, the most important part is the waiting time before using it. Whenever I start making this mixture, I always prepare the warm water first. The water only needs to be comfortably warm, about body temperature. It should not be too hot because high temperatures can reduce the activity of the yeast. Then I add the molasses and stir until it is completely dissolved. If you do not have molasses, you can still use brown sugar or white sugar. But many gardeners prefer molasses because, besides providing a source of energy for the yeast, it also contains a small amount of natural minerals. Once the water is ready, I sprinkle the dry yeast onto the surface. I do not stir it right away. Instead, I let the yeast absorb the water on its own for the first few minutes. Only then do I give it one gentle stir and place the bucket in a cool, well-ventilated area. From that point on, the only thing left to do is wait. I usually let the mixture sit for at least 8 to 12 hours, and sometimes overnight if the weather is cool. During that time, the yeast begins to work and forms a thin layer of foam on the surface of the solution. That is a sign that the fermentation process is taking place normally. If, after several hours, the solution is still completely still, with no foam and no light fermented smell, I check the quality of the yeast instead of using the mixture on my plants. Starting over is much better than using a batch of solution that is not working properly. Once I see that the yeast is active and stable, I add the buttermilk, if I have it ready, then add exactly 1 teaspoon of baking soda and stir well. At that point, the mixture is finally complete. Many people ask me why every ingredient is necessary. The answer is very simple. Every ingredient has its own role. The yeast is a living microorganism and uses sugar as its source of energy to grow. The molasses helps keep that process going longer while also supplying a small amount of minerals. The buttermilk, if you use it, adds calcium and some of the beneficial bacteria naturally found in the product. Baking soda is not the main ingredient, but in a very small amount, it can slightly change the environment of the solution. Which is why I always keep the amount exact and never use more than necessary. I have always believed that once you understand the reason behind each step, you will no longer follow a recipe mechanically. That is also the lesson I learned after many years of gardening. It is not enough to know how to do something. You also need to understand why you are doing it. By now, many of you are probably asking, Jacob, once the mixture is ready, how should I use it to get the best results? In my experience, how you use it is just as important as the recipe itself. I have met quite a few people who use the right ingredients and the right proportions, but because they applied it the wrong way, they ended up concluding that the mixture did not work at all. The first thing I always do is check the moisture level of the soil. If the soil is hard and dry after several sunny days, I water it lightly with clean water first. I do not want to pour any kind of solution onto dry soil because when the soil has enough moisture, the solution will soak more evenly around the root zone instead of spreading across the surface. After that, I never pour it directly against the base of the plant. Many people think the roots are located right beneath the stem, but in reality, most of the roots that absorb water and nutrients have already spread outward. That is why I usually apply the solution in a circle about 6 to 8 inches away from the base of the plant, so it soaks into the area where the roots are growing most actively. Another thing I always tell new gardeners is not to use more than the recommended amount just because they see good results. Gardening is not like cooking. Adding more ingredients does not necessarily produce better results. Soil is a very complex ecosystem. Any change should happen gradually so the plant has time to adapt. For newly planted tomato plants, I use only a small amount around the root zone, about once or twice a week. Once the plants are mature and begin flowering, I increase the amount of the solution, but I still combine it with regular watering and fertilizing according to the plant's needs. I always consider this mixture a supplement, not a complete replacement for normal plant care. Have you ever noticed that healthy tomato plants usually do not just produce more fruit, but also have thicker stems, darker green leaves, and stronger root systems? Those are the signs I always look for before I even think about the harvest. I also do not want to promise that your plants will change noticeably after just a few days. Every garden has different soil, climate, and growing practices. Some gardens respond fairly quickly, while others may take several weeks or even longer before showing improvement. The most important thing is to observe your plants regularly and adjust your care based on what you see, instead of expecting the exact same results as someone else. Besides tomatoes, I also use the same approach with sweet peppers, cucumbers, zucchini, and several other fruiting vegetables in my garden. Even though each plant has different nutritional needs, I always begin with the same principle. If you want healthy plants, you first need to create healthy soil. In my opinion, that is the most important lesson my garden has taught me over the years. Before I wrap up, I want to share something that I believe is even more important than the recipe I just shared. After many years of gardening, I have realized that there is no single product that can solve every problem in the garden. Whether it is fertilizer, pesticide, or any other product, it will only be truly effective when you understand what your soil actually needs. I am not against commercial fertilizers. In fact, in some situations, they are very useful and can help plants grow well when they are used in the right type, the right amount, and at the right time. But what I always try to do is avoid depending on them completely. Every growing season, I spend time adding compost, mulching with straw or dried leaves, avoiding leaving the soil bare under the hot sun, and trying to maintain consistent soil moisture. I also regularly observe the color of the leaves, the growth rate of the plants, and check the soil structure before deciding to add anything else. In my opinion, those practices provide much better long-term results than simply adding more fertilizer every time a plant grows slowly. If I could give one piece of advice to people who are just getting started with gardening, it would be this: do not try to find a miracle recipe. Learn how to observe your own garden. A tomato plant will tell you when it needs water. The leaves will tell you when the plant is having problems. The soil will also tell you what it needs if you pay close enough attention. A handful of loose soil with plenty of earthworms and the ability to hold a moderate amount of moisture is usually a sign of healthy soil. I also encourage you to have your soil tested at least once every few years. In many parts of the United States, county extension offices and universities offer soil testing services at a reasonable cost. A simple soil test report can tell you exactly which nutrients your soil is lacking or has in excess, helping you avoid applying fertilizer based on guesswork and saving you a considerable amount of money. Another important thing is to be patient. A healthy garden is not created in just 1 week or 1 month. The soil needs time to improve, microorganisms need time to grow, and plants also need time to adapt. But if you maintain good gardening habits season after season, you will find that your garden becomes more stable, has fewer pest and disease problems, and is much easier to care for. Now, I would really like to hear your story. Which state are you growing tomatoes in? Is the soil in your garden clay, sandy, or loam? What has been your biggest challenge during this growing season? Share your experience in the comments. I always take the time to read the experiences everyone shares because I believe we learn the most from people who are gardening every day. If you found this video helpful, do not forget to subscribe so you do not miss my future videos. In my next video, I will show you how I make compost from materials already available in the garden to create rich, fertile soil without unpleasant odors or attracting flies. Thank you for spending your time with me. I am Jacob. I wish you a bountiful harvest, and I will see you again in the next video. Again in the next video. Again in the next